gonna be great.
Yeah.
All right, let's go, Miss Apothecary.
Let's go.
Welcome to Just Between Us Girls. This is Columbus's hub for inclusive conversations on building success in male-dominated fields. Whether it's through empowerment, support, or advocacy, we talk all things professional development and breaking the glass ceiling. All right. Welcome to episode 5 of Just Between Us Girls. My name is Arianny Damian, your business development rep with Thompson Restoration Associates. And today we have
Angi Carey. I'm the director of property management at Scioto Properties.
Amazing. I'm so excited for you to join me. Angie and I have been having some amazing discussions, and I'm really excited to bring it on air. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
That makes me so happy because every time I'm sweating in my boots, I'm like, okay, we're going to get into this again.
We got it.
Well, I want to kind of first introduce the audience to you and find out a little bit more about what you do, and in particular with Scioto Properties, how you guys are a little different than some of these property management companies.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so thankful that you had me on and we're talking about this. So I've been in the property management industry for going on 25 years, which is really hard to say, but 25 years. I started actually in residential, went to commercial, and then here at Scioto, we do a little bit different. We are residential, but our residential focus is on the mentally impaired, mobily impaired, behavioral disabilities, those kinds of things. And what makes us different is that we actually have a mission, and we follow that mission. And that's what really attracted me to Scioto Properties, was the fact that that mission lives through and through. You know, you can have a mission statement, you can have it say one thing, but to truly follow it and believe it is amazing. And that's really what we're about. And it's really kind of fulfilling my life's mission as I've gotten more mature in the field. That makes me really... I didn't realize that there were management companies that particularly cater to some of these different, demographics than your regular tenant, right? Like, this is a lot more... it's a little bit more intense, I can imagine. It's very intense. So when we buy these homes, we're buying single-family homes. We do have facilities, but the single-family homes, we have to do a lot of renovations and modifications to a 1950s home, sometimes even a 1900s home. And you have to modify these for these individuals and truly take the care to do that. And sometimes you have to get creative, right?
Which is exactly what I'm talking about. Well, and I really appreciate it. In one of our conversations, I remember you saying that your guys' CEO... you guys kind of had a conversation around him saying, these properties, we give them in certain condition, and we're not always going to get them back in those conditions because of who is living in them. And it's not always about the bottom line. Like, if you were just looking at the bottom line, this wouldn't be the line of work that you guys would probably be specializing in.
So true. And I'm glad you brought that up. So there's a lot of our homes, we purchase the home, we have, a certain set amount that we're paying, that our provider's paying to us. And then, we've automatically assumed that they're going to take responsibility for the roof or the driveway, the foundation. Well, that's kind of difficult, right? To have that conversation with a provider to say you're responsible for a $30,000 roof when it's our asset. So we have to have that creative conversation around that. And but the conversation that I had with our president was, how do I allow this provider to do that? And he was like, we should be doing that. And having that conversation of like, sometimes you kind of have to eat that cost to provide this home for these individuals because they don't have the money. Not that we're an open checkbook, because we're not, but they don't have the money to do that. And so to be able to provide that just shows me that even more so that mission is strong.
I was going to say, that's really mission work, right? Like when you decide that it's not in a world where numbers rule it all. Like, this is commercial real estate. Like, let's be real. This is residential real estate. And at the end of the day, though, deciding like the numbers are not going to be the thing that determines full on what we decide to do and how we move. And even like in restoration for us, like a lot of the things that's really helpful with us being an independent restorer is in this creative conversation. A lot of the times we have these units where it's like, if you're in here doing a bunch of demo, this is going to disrupt the lifestyle of a lot of our residents.
Correct.
And so if they're asking us, what is a better way to go about this? we as an independent restorer can be like, you know what? We're going to go ahead and get a little creative with our drawing and get more aggressive in that arena so that we can mitigate having to do all of this demo and having to disrupt so many different, so many lives, you know?
Yeah, we had that conversation a couple of days ago. We've had a major kitchen renovation, bathroom renovations. These people are still living in the homes. Yeah. They have no place else to go. Sometimes they can go to a hotel, but it's different, right?
Exactly.
Different than you and I going to the hotel for, a vacation. To try to disrupt their home, it can be rough.
Yeah. In one of those conversations too, for me, it was really realizing the fact that when you are looking at the numbers and you are more on the operations side of things, it really is about deciding that in a industry where people should come first, deciding in certain moments that the people do come first above all else.
Very true.
And like you said, it's not like one of us going on a vacation, right? And being able to, this is not a willing cost. Like this is not something that you're wanting to go out of your way to.
Yeah, and you can only capital expense manage to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
But when you have a portfolio of homes, depending on where they are at in the United States, which we are in 42 states, Texas and California, those southern states, they get nailed with sun, and so our roofs get damaged, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we had to capitalize all that and factor that in.
Yeah.
Also having them in their home, so it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things where you have to look at it beyond what the numbers say and what the length of the lease says. It has to do with what the value is to us as a company as well as to the resident. So,
and you're kind of molding your role a little bit, right? Like you've been in this industry for how long now?
Going on 25 years, honestly. I've been in it since I graduated from high school. So it's been my life. And so this position particularly, I am molding. We did not really have property management. We've had asset management, which is slightly different. It's mostly numbers. Property management's mostly taking care of the property. We have not had that. So I'm coming in, making some changes that I know that work. And we're kind of just going with it. It's been fun. I've been there for 7 weeks, and it's been a lot of fun. Challenges, but nothing that we can't handle. And that's one great thing about property management is that you can fix everything. There's nothing you can't fix. So
well, that's beautiful, especially because I think a lot of the times you end up in a lot of these, like, they're not cut and dry situations of like this plus this equals this. Like the solution's right in front of you, right? It really is about kind of being able to be creative,
right?
and get around things.
Yes.
And so, what are some things in your career that you feel like have really, really made you start thinking alternatively and made you start thinking about not the direct solution every single time?
Yeah. So, like we were talking about cabinetry. Most people want to just replace the whole cabinet. But in my history, I've run into people who can restore the countertops or can restore the counters and the cabinets. And that to me is more powerful than just replacing the whole thing, like just throwing it out and saying, oh, let's get new. And 9 times out of 10 is less expensive, but it looks better. You put that epoxy finish on the top of it, make it look like it's granite. It's not. My personal home has what I thought was Corian. It's not. It's not at all. But you can get creative with that, right? You can wrap the doors. You can paint them. Just do something different instead of having to replace good solid bones of a product. Just because you want to update it. So that's where that creative side has come into play for me. One of the topics we kind of talked about was, creativity beyond artistry. It's not just about can you paint a pretty picture, it's can you think differently and beyond. And I feel like that's kind of what made me different and made my team different is because we do think a little bit differently than most.
I think one of the biggest things, too, that you said there is being able to, when you use the ability to expand your knowledge beyond what would be on your typical job description, right? So like for you being in property management, of course, you've been used to creating certain reports, having to do your, your day-to-day tasks and things like that. But then when you go beyond and you decide, I'm going to learn a little bit more about the mechanics that are in this building. I'm going to learn a little bit more about what's going on with the plumbing of this building. Decide to start asking your vendors questions and really make it your mission to kind of be able to understand beyond what the answer is right in front of you. How does that add to your resume
Yeah, truly. And so kind of also brings it back to this conversation is being a female in this industry, right? I've had borderline no choice but to dive in, to ask those questions. Otherwise, I'd be eaten alive, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
So it is very easy to take for granted that everybody else knows what I know, because I've literally delved into a lot of these things. But it's taking that initiative and it's asking those questions. I want to know how that HVAC system works. I want to know what a heat pump is. I want to know what a cooling tower is for the commercial, tenants and things like that. And I get to know that, and I want to know, and I want to know how the plumbing works. I want to know how a septic tank works, and I have that at my house. But we have a lot of homes in Connecticut, that have septic well water. Those are things that not everybody knows about. And those are things you have to learn. And I've told all my team, it's like, okay, if we know that thing that someone else does not know, and they see us as having that value and having that true understanding, and it just elevates our positions of who we are and why we're managing the properties that we're managing.
And it's funny you say that too, because it's also not only about like having that value, it's communicating that value, right? They will know that you know these things should you not come to the table and say like, this is the reason that I'm the next level for you.
Correct.
These are the things that make me different. And I would love to know what one way you would tell someone else that is looking to understand some of these next level, whether it's, the HVAC, the well, like what is a way what's the best way to approach someone in trying to understand this stuff? Because I think as women, we can be very, almost scared to speak up and say, I don't know this thing, but you don't know what you don't know.
I would just ask. That's how bold I am. I've literally asked everybody in this industry throughout time, what are you doing? I want to see what you're doing. I want to know this. I want to learn this. It's about being bold and knowing that you are doing this because you love it. And I truly, as much as it drives me crazy sometimes, I do love property management. I love what we do. It is a passion of mine. And I ask those questions because I want to know. And so what I would say to somebody is, make sure if you're wanting to do this and you're wanting to know property management is to get into the thicket of it and understand it through and through. Don't just look at the numbers, because the numbers are only part of the story. You have to know the whole story to be able to communicate that. And also too, I don't like to ever rely on a vendor to tell me something. I trust my vendors, but I want it to come from me that they know that I know what I'm talking about. And because it just validates, I guess, my knowledge even further. So I would tell anybody to just make sure that you know that and you go after that.
Well, and I think that even almost bleeds into a little bit the conversation what we were having with whenever you're kind of trying to get anything done, the squeaky wheel gets the what is
gets
it like
the worm.
gets the worm.
Or something like
the
that.
bird gets the worm. The squeaky wheel gets the worm. That you heard it here first. But sometimes just speaking up and saying I don't know this thing. Can this making it even going of your own volition, doing that research, doing some article reading, getting into some even in associations, sometimes they will do deep dives with certain people and have people lay out these are the aspects that maybe you don't understand about what's going on in your building. And you really do kind of have to advocate for yourself to get that next level of knowledge to level up your career.
Correct. And that's one thing I wanted to mention too. IRM, the Institute of Real Estate Management, has been huge just in my career. IFMA is another really good one, facility management, because they have the educational piece. BOMA is good too. All these organizations and affiliations are fantastic. You have to though get those questions and you have to ask them.
And you got to show up.
You got to show up.
You got to show up.
People tell us all the time, you get what you put in. If you're really going to put in, hey, I'm just going to go up to this lunch and I'm not going to talk to anybody, that's what you're going to get out of it.
Yes. Throw back to my episode with Lori Rashavitz. That's exactly what she said.
There you go. Yeah, that's my girl. But no, it's just about having those conversations and talking to people. I mean, I think I met one of my plumbers that I use for everything at an event, and I've used them now for 13, 14 years. Same with me, my HVAC people. You don't know unless you start talking to people and you build those relationships. And now I know if I call them, they're out there because they know that I mean business and I know what I'm talking about. And that to me is huge.
And that's the kind of stuff too, right? When you're negotiating your value and trying to get a new job, or because you just went through this. Like you were in a job hunt as a person that is very tenured. You've been in your career for a long time now, and when these are the little things that you can use to negotiate your contract and come in and do a job and being like, look, I'm not just what you're seeing on this resume, because that's a question I ask in my interviews. I ask, and by the way, this is a really great bonus interview question, what is not on your resume that I should know about you?
Very true.
And this is your time to shine, baby. You could say, you know what? Hand me a plumbing fixture.
I'll show you. I'll show you how to wax your toilet.
and it's just one of those things, like this is how this is leveling up. It's
Very
going
true.
beyond, going more into the day-to-day, because these are the things that will affect you on the day-to-day, right?
Absolutely.
You don't know something. If you don't know a vendor in your area, who are you going to ask? If you don't know a blog to go and maybe look this up,
Absolutely.
Where are you going to go?
Absolutely.
You can't count on AI for everything, guys.
Sure not.
So,
or what is that chat AI
Chat
thing?
GPT.
There you go. See, I don't even know. I'm not that cool yet, but I just heard about this and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Well,
this could
Okay.
No, I love it. It's one of those things where, one of the things that I opened up last episode with is the fact that these are not meant to be things that are the backbone of your work. Right. You're meant to use these things as tools and as supportive, supportive documents and supportive, being able to gather data that way or being able to sift through data that way. Mm-hmm. But you should be the one that is bringing that next whatever.
The next thing.
Yes.
One thing, throughout my career, I hear my dad's voice in the background. Mm-hmm. He's always like, Angie, you don't follow trends, you make trends.
Yes.
And that's not just for fashion. Mm-hmm. That is for everything. Mm-hmm. And I literally use it almost every day. Yeah. I don't follow the trends, I make the trends. And so I have set myself up, hopefully, aside by, doing things differently. Mm-hmm. Or not saying no initially. Like, I'm thinking about things. We talked about this just before we started recording, is taking those moments to really, are you listening? Or are you just wanting to respond? That was key. Yeah. Are you doing this just because you want to listen, or because you want to have a response to something? And as I've gotten more mature, I'm trying to do this so I can listen. I want to hear what someone's, qualms are. When they call me, they're not calling me to tell me to have a good day.
Right. That's something.
They're not calling me to have a good day. They're calling me because they have a problem. And they're calling you because they have a problem, right? You've got tree through the house, whatever. Yeah. How can I help you? Let's calm you down first. My first thing is always, let's calm you down. Yeah. Then let's bring it back around. And I think that's what women bring. Women have that heart. Mm-hmm. Men have hearts, but they just don't know how to use them. And they think it's weak. I don't know what that is. Yeah. No offense, men. But I think they think it's weak. But really, it's not about being weak. It's about showing our strength. And listening to humanity. It's that vulnerability, I think, that adds another layer to, this is no longer just a business transaction. This is person to person. Like, I am doing this because I decided one day that I wanted to help people be better. Correct. I'm sure it was the same for you. And when you can just get to that, like, core person to person interaction of, like, I don't want you to call me thinking that we're going to get right into, this is how much you owe me because I've serviced you today. Correct. I want you to call me and feel like I can be your problem solver. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually just had a client, I just called him because I just wanted to see how the repair went. She was like, you did what? Like, you want to know how I'm like, I just wanted to know how XYZ thing went. And it shocked her. Yeah. Of course, I'm in the background going, yeah. Yeah. Because I want that to be that difference. I want to kind of have that shock factor of, okay, this is why Scioto is different. This is why Angie's different. Yeah. Because Angie follows up. Yeah. And that's even something I think the art of following up is getting so lost. Like, when you, in so many different ways, right? Like, you leave a networking event, you get cards and everyone's talking and da-da-da, and we're going to connect, uh-huh. And then I don't hear from you again until the next thing. Mm-hmm. And even that, right? And even like, if I have recommended you to someone, I always say, if I can't help you, I'm going to find somebody that can. Yeah. And that is still servicing a client. Absolutely. And looping back around and being like, how did that go for you? Yeah. Just shows, like, that
you still service them. Like that's still an aspect of service these days, is following up, seeing how people are doing, because even if you weren't part of the transaction, you ought to still make 100%. Sure it's gone the way you hoped it would go, because in the end, that's your tenant, girl.
Right. And let's be honest, you know this too. Word of mouth is by far and few the best way to market, right?
Oh, yes.
So with these bigger providers, even the smaller providers, when our providers are our leaseholders in our sense, I want to make sure that they know we care, because they go on Google, they say the little thing, or they're talking to their friend, their cousin, their brother.
That's right.
Sister, whoever else. I want them to come to us if they ever have, they have another house or they have another area.
Yeah.
I don't think about anybody else.
But yes, like it's one of those things where a lot of the times, like you said, word travels, right? And especially like when you're in a locality. So for us, like being a local company, if the community, if one whistleblower shows up and is talking on your business, like, and you're a local business owner as well. You got apothecary, and here's the thing is, if you do wrong by one person, that will exponentially.
The cleanup makes it a lot worse.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you try to wipe them off the face of the earth, they're going to keep coming back when it's like a zip.
Just keeps on coming.
Yeah, and you've got to, like, a portion of our business actually comes from word of mouth, because a neighbor will have a loss and then they'll be like, oh, you know what? I use this person for the last. And that's something, right? That's a piece of business that we're not, we don't put marketing dollars into that. We don't it's not necessarily something that we count on, so we don't even count it as part of a business strategy. But yet, we're getting a certain amount of work out of the community, being like, these are some upstanding individuals.
They're good. Yes, absolutely.
And that's what keeps you really going, right? Is the community knowing that you're going to do right by people.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and I think that kind of brings us into our next topic of that balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Of the juggling of the responsibilities of just not to do our job, but also our home, right? And we've talked about this. I have 2 boys, and I always tell my husband and I tell my boys, like, I'm raising somebody else's spouse.
Yes.
At some point, right? So I want them to see me working hard and to see that my heart is genuine, because then at the end of the day, they're hopefully going to have those genuine hearts. Yeah. And balancing that. It can be kind of hard when you're talking to somebody who's angry and they kind of like, why are you angry, Mom? Well, right. I try not to show that, right? But it is one of those things where I think balancing the work and the family life, the outside life, it can blend in together.
Absolutely.
But should it fully? No. Like, I try to shut my phone off in the evening. It's hard.
I think that's one thing that was really hard about, like, in that COVID transition.
It's
you know what I mean?
You were
like,
on 24/7. I mean, you're on 24/7 normally, but, like, I feel like COVID, you were, like, on.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, your laptop's open. You've been working at the dinner table all day anyway. Oh, an email came in at 8. Okay, I'm going to answer this email. Oh, okay. Now it's midnight. I'm still answering emails.
Right. Because you're available.
You're available. Exactly. Am I? No.
Yeah, and that goes to this balancing is talking and negotiating this flexibility workplace environment. Yeah. Now, it's one thing I told, Scioto, because I was looking, but I wasn't looking, right? Yeah. I mean, I had a recruiter call me, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But I said, I'm a mom of 2 boys. Yeah, I have a good supportive husband, but at the same point in time, I don't want to miss out. I only get this one time to be with my kids. Yeah. And they only get this one mom, and I don't want to be the mom that's not present. And they all told me, I haven't missed my child's event. I have never missed this. And I was like, okay, solid. Yeah. And that rings true, right? And that truly is balance, is when you can still go to work, enjoy your job, but you can still go home and enjoy your family. Yeah. Don't want to ever feel like I'm going to a family event and I'm, now, granted, there's going to be times where I'm going to be busy because I've got something closing or whatever. Yeah,
but that's the balance, too.
That's the balance.
I think, too, when you're talking about, like, work-life balance, a lot of people really do emphasize on that life balance, and that's very important. Like, that is super, super important. Now, on the other side, too, though, is understanding that there are also moments where, like you said, like, closing a big deal, or you have, like, something going on in the moment, like... Right. Also recognizing, like, because I have this amazing job that I can go out and go to my kid's game, let me close this deal real quick. And really truly having that balance.
Very true. Very true. And then also too, it's not just about the leadership having balance, right? It's about making sure your team knows.
Oh my gosh.
They have that support. You know, that they have a life. I mean, I know that they live and they're humans, right? And that they have things that happen, like they have animals and they have the things and they're doing this, or they have family members that have issues. And it's like, I understand that. And I have the heart to understand that, right? And not
making people feel guilty for
taking their time. No,
taking their time, and even just that, like, that the things that affect our lives, right? The things that make up our lives. Not making someone feel guilty because, okay, I do have 5 children, and right. I do have to, you know, whatever, maybe I'm not a mother, so I can't really like speak directly to this, but yeah, like I like not making people feel bad for the confines of what their life is at the moment is like, that's how you build a true employee that's going to appreciate you for years to come and not look to go other places. Something that we've been discussing a lot here is how we build value outside of the paycheck portion of the benefits that people are looking at.
Very true.
So one of the things I mentioned on the last episode was we were like, let's do like a floating holiday where if you have something that you celebrate but it's not like nationally recognized, like you can take your floating PTO day to this.
Yeah.
And even like one of the things that Tim had brought up one day was he was like, what if we have a bunch of like floaties and like play stuff and like inflatables and stuff that people can like rent from the company or like, you know, like take at a certain, you know, take off certain times so that whenever they want to have parties for their kids, they don't have to go and rent all this equipment. We just have it and they just check it out.
That's great.
And like little things like that where it's like, dang, I hadn't thought of that one.
That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Like, it shows you also that you care.
You're thinking deeper.
And thinking deeper.
And understanding that work-life balance looks like so much more than a pizza party once a quarter.
Yes.
Let's get deeper.
Yes, truly.
And even just going beyond, like, because here's the thing too, we're a family-owned company, right? Like, we don't have a bajillion $1 million and a huge operating budget to be able to pay everybody what we would love to pay them.
Right.
But how do you pay them in, this is gonna sound cheesy, but in heart, and showing people that you do want them to understand that you know that there are needs there. Like another thing, Tim was talking about buying a cow, and he was like, what if, you know, we just butcher a cow and we like
split the meat,
and we just split the meat and like allowed our employees to, you know, with rising cost of living and with rising cost of groceries, how do we even look at that aspect of what our employers are going through? And I'm like, dang, like this man has sat up late at night and thought.
That's that creative thinking, though.
That's that creative thinking. That's the creative thinking is like, that's what goes beyond, you know, again, we have a quarterly pizza party. It's what goes beyond that because you're really taking the time to understand the current needs of people living day-to-day life.
True.
And seeing how you can combat that and create, again, work-life balance, but in these different ways.
Time. I mean, I feel like the pandemic catapulted us to the future, like exponentially.
Oh my gosh.
I know it did for me personally. I told you, like, I was not peopling, now I'm peopling again. And I had that moment, which is really weird because I'm very extroverted and I'm like, became this different person.
Yeah.
But I think the pandemic did something more than that for companies. It made us really realize, like, okay, we can do things beyond these walls, right?
Yes.
We don't have to be in front of our computer. We have our phones, which are our computers in our hands. We can be away, still enjoying the things, but also still working. And I think that that's also another creative way that, you know, I've seen in my 25 years. Because it used to be you had to be at that desk. You did not move. Didn't take your hour lunch. You took 45-minute lunch. You just didn't do those things, right? And now it's like you have a little bit more of that leeway. And I think that's pretty cool.
I was going to ask you in kind of entering a new role so recently, what are some of the ways that you specifically, what kind of advice would you give to people that are negotiating up front that have a little bit more needs of flexibility?
Yeah, I think it's about just being that honest. When they ask you the question of like, what are your needs? What is this? Even if they don't ask you that question in an interview, make sure you're bringing it up. Make sure you're having it in those original conversations because after you've been hired to bring it up, it's not really the best time to have the conversation. And as I've more matured in this job scenario, it's always been, that's the past 2 positions I've taken, it has been first and foremost, like, are you flexible? Can we work this out? Because if the answer is no, then the job has to be no.
Yeah.
And I mean that with everything in me. Like, if that's a no, that you can't see me where I'm at, then we have to move forward. So we can't move forward. We have to,
As an applicant, I think that something we don't think hard enough about is, what are my hard stops? Like,
Correct.
Going into this interview, when I hear blank, what are my red flags, hard stops? Like, what are the things what are my non-negotiables?
Yeah.
And when you're putting together, your answers to your interview questions and your questions back to the interviewee, I want you to also add to that, what are my non-negotiables in terms of my career?
And it has to be that non-negotiable. Do
Yes.
not waver on that.
Yes.
Because you waver on it, and they'll see that wavering, right?
Yes.
And they see that kind of as a weakness. Do not waver on it. If that's what you are truly, that's your non-negotiable, that's it.
It needs to stay that way.
Stays that way. And I will tell you, they will see that more as a strength.
Yes.
I have not had an employer tell me that that's a weakness.
Yeah.
And my executive coaching stuff I've done on the side as well, I've never seen that as a weakness at all. It's always been truly, this is a person who knows what they want.
Yeah.
They're going to go after and get that, which means they're going to do the same thing in their job.
Boom. 100%.
Pretty much you sell them on that quickly.
Yeah.
So it's about really going after and speaking your mind and your heart. Don't give them the answers you think that they want to hear, right?
Oh my gosh.
It's always about what the truth is. Do not give me, as if I'm giving you an interview, do not give me an answer you think that I want to hear, because I will call you out on it.
And even if not, here's the thing too, here's the issue with doing that is, how are you guys both going to get what you need out of this working relationship? Correct. Should you not start on this even plane? Correct. If you're in a position where you're like, look, I just need a job, right? I just need to start. Okay. But also, like, wouldn't you rather start one place where the soup is not too cold and the soup is not too hot than to start in 3 different soup palaces and have to begin the process all over again every single time? Like, no, Goldilocks. Take a seat.
Calm down. No, I may think too, with that being said, I think that is so true, just to say, if you need that job that badly, it's okay to say that in the interview. Like, I need this job for XYZ reasons. Yeah. Because me, as an employer, I'm going to say, okay, this person's got some passion, got some drive, got some different things going on that's going to cause them to be that more of that loyal employee. Yeah. Versus someone who's not going to tell me that. Upfront honest. I'm all about being honest. You just tell me up front what your needs are. Yeah. And we can meet together.
Exactly.
You don't tell me what your needs are.
Then I
can't meet you there.
I can't meet you there. 100%. Yeah. In the end, it comes down to, if someone does not know, how could you ever hope for them to be in a space where they can negotiate with you or work something out with you? Or, like, this is really, really one of the biggest things I think people don't understand about the application process or even starting a new job is, like, how are you going to go into it being dishonest but then expect certain things from a company? They don't even know what they're getting out of you or what you need from them. And you have to be able to bring more than that. And also, I would like to recommend this book, Go for the No. Yes is the destination.
I would agree. That's a great book.
Did you read that one?
I did.
That is such a good book, because let me tell you, when you're a hyped up person, right? I feel like we both have this personality where you're constantly going after yes. You want yes. It's a positive word. It's a beautiful word. We love that word. But you know what's prettier? No. Because no will redirect you to the space you need to be in. Correct. Not the space that you're getting out of dishonesty, maybe.
And the no's lead you to the yes.
Yes,
always.
Every time.
Like, people are always like, oh my gosh, I got rejected. I got the no. Okay,
get it out of my way.
Get the next one going, because you're going to be closer to that yes. I'm not afraid of rejection. In my side hustle, the apothecary, which is my candles, I get rejected often. People are like, oh no, I got this. I got too many of this. I'm like, okay, move on to the next one.
Boom.
My husband's always like, how can you take that? And I'm like, because I'm closer to my next yes. I'm like, Not that big of a deal.
I would rather that
personal.
than you for 3 months string me along and tell me that you're gonna buy my candle and you don't buy my candle.
That's the other thing too with The Godfather. If you watch the movie The Godfather, where you say it's not personal, it's business. I mean, it's the truth. It's not personal, it's business. Move on, and that needs to be that way.
Yes.
Really, but it should still have the personal stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
But that no is not a personal no. It's just a hey.
This is not
my
the
business
moment.
Movement. Move on, right?
Also, I'd like to have a quick moment for the name. When did that come for you? When did that come to you, Miss Apothecary?
The Apothecary at 2:00 in the morning. I was like, my last name's Carey, so I was like, let's do the Apothecary, and it just kind of blended. It was
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and how long have you had your business now?
Actually, a little over a year.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
I've been making candles there for 20, but I've had it just about a little over a year. So.
And now you're doing markets and going out, and now you're having to market yourself. Like, you're running your own business.
Yeah, it's just me.
How do you think that has affected the way that you kind of show up at work, right? And the way that you are now handling all of these either rejections or successes in all this different space.
Yeah.
How do you apply that back to your work at Scioto?
That's a great question. Really, business is business, right? It's all the same, whether it be candles, property management, Thompson restoration, building stuff, whatever. I get more successes than I do no's, which is good because that definitely keeps me pumped up.
Yeah.
Because it can be really defeating. But I think at this point in my life, it drives me. It makes me more excited for that yes.
Yeah.
Just like with Scioto, I get more excited to have a very happy provider, very happy tenant, regardless if I've just spent $500 to just do whatever. If I've just spent $500, check, I've just won.
Yeah.
Because then now that person realizes, hey, you got this, right? Now with my business, my candle stuff, I mean, spending $500 on my side thing, it comes out of my pocket.
Adds up, right?
It comes out of my pocket. But I do truly think of our Scioto Properties as my own.
Yeah.
And I think thinking like a business owner, because I am a business owner, helps me perform my job that much better, right? We are not just an open checkbook.
Right.
I think a lot of people think that, property management companies, you're just an open checkbook.
Well, I think people look at like real estate companies in general, like, and everyone's just like, oh, you're making all this money. That's how people will look at restoration sometimes, and they're like, well, since you're insurance and you're making all this money, I'm like, name one other industry.
Name it. Yeah.
Name one other industry someone else is naming your prices. Okay, I don't even get to tell you how much I would like to charge for this.
Right. That's very true. Very true. Like, we just had a meeting this morning, and, I was like, okay, you've got this beautiful little package here, but what about the operational cost of this, right? And it's just about thinking things differently and thinking from on that business owner side of things. So yeah.
Well, I really, really, I love to see someone that's kind of also balancing their, full-time career that they've had for this long, and then also getting into this entrepreneurial side of things. I kind of, for a long time, I've always had like multiple hats, right? And like switching between the hats is always a mission. It's always a moment. But in the end, you kind of start to realize like you are able to do all the things you want to do.
You have to have the drive.
You have to have the drive. People will be like, oh my gosh, how are you making so much time to do all this? And I'm like, because I love it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's, And I think that's so true, right? You have to have the drive. You have to have the passion to whatever you're doing, whether it's your full-time gig, your side gig, your kids thing, whatever. If you're not going to have the drive, you don't have the passion, you're not going to want to do it. And it's going to totally reflect. When I'm doing my work, I'm in my work. When I'm doing my candle stuff, I'm doing my candle stuff. And, it's truly that drive, though. And my entrepreneurial side, my mom's told me since I was little, I was always making things and mixing things and doing the things. So for me, it just kind of goes hand in hand. It's just that other side of me that I get to be that creative. But I can't paint. I cannot draw.
Right.
I am not Bob Ross, although I wish I was. Maybe in my next life I'll do that. But I get to be creative on that side of that, and I get to kind of fulfill that side. And so it makes me, I feel like, more rounded in my career. Yeah. So.
Well, and even like if you're a more analytical person, like I've even found with people that are a little bit more analytical, right, and kind of use their like data in their spreadsheets, and they really dive in. Like that's you honing in on your creativity too, right? Like you're able to sit here and dissect this data that a lot of people really wouldn't be getting into and turn it into more manageable data. Someone that's really good at this, Casey Calhoun on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love his LinkedIn because I am not very, I'm not your typical numbers girl. Like I'm the people girl. And when I get on Casey's LinkedIn, I'm like, man, he is able to take this data and it's from a market in I don't even know where, and he puts it out on the spreadsheet, and then he turns it into like a football analogy or something, and like that is the definition of when you get creative with something you love, even if you are a more data-driven person, that's how you continue to turn things into something that can make you feel more connected to your job and more connected to the things that you're doing.
Yeah, just more relevant.
And more relevant.
Yeah, that people understand, and you're not like, I'm not looking at you like, what are you speaking?
And there's something to be said for conductors, right? Like, I really, really find it such an important role for the people in our society that like have this super knowledge in this area and know that there's a need for that knowledge to be passed down, but they can act as that conductor of like, let me translate this for you real quick. Let me break it down for you real quick. And you don't have that a lot of times, especially in the workplace, especially as a woman, especially when you're asking questions that women are not traditionally asking. So if you can be a conductor and you can be a person that's not going to make someone feel bad or minimize their other strengths and their worth for just simply wanting to know something, that's also advocacy. That's also allyship. That is also carrying on the ability for someone to be able to grow. Very true. Very true.
And I think too, as you know, being in a leadership role, it's really important. I call it my 3 Fs: my firm, fairness, and flexibility. Kind of goes back into that whole life balance. But you still need to be firm because you need to be able to say, okay, listen here, I can make a decision. This fair side is like, okay, I can see your side. And the flexibility is like, okay, how can we work together?
Yeah.
And I think that's so true. And I think women, we've had kind of like this, we've had to stay firm.
Yes.
We can't have the fair and the flexible. We can only be firm.
Right.
At least how it was when I was growing up. I mean, The Devil Wears Prada, Miranda, Priestley.
Yes, that was firm, baby. And that's who had the respect.
And that's who had the respect. That's who had the respect. But I feel like having that firm, fair flexibility kind of in your whole day-to-day, I feel like that's kind of the new way of getting that respect.
Yeah.
We've had issues, and unfortunately we've talked about this with the male-dominated industry. We've had situations where we've been disrespected, and even so much as having a man put his hand in my face and tell me to stop talking because you knew what I was going to say. Excuse me, I'm here. We're having the conversation.
Yeah.
But that's also too where that's not everybody.
Right.
It's not every every male dominated industry. You're not going to always have that.
Right.
You do have a few, but it's important for women like us to speak up, to be heard, be seen. And so I'm so glad you have this podcast for that purpose alone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really one of the things I loved when you said your 3 Fs: firm, fair, flexible, because I think that those are the things those are the stools by which those are the legs on the stool by which we can really, really build something that is more equitable. And I really love that you brought flexibility into it, because I think a lot of times when we talk about strength and we talk about like this is how we're going to get places, we talk about it like you have to be stiff. The strongest thing I think is when you have that give to you. It's why we're getting gel nails and not acrylics anymore, okay? Because it has that flexibility, right? Like it's stronger because it's willing to bend. It's stronger because it's willing to
not be broken.
But
bend and be able to be flexible. Absolutely.
100%. And I think that's even like when we are talking about shattering the glass ceiling. Again, we have to do that by understanding what's going on around us, dissecting, and really, really making it a point to be like, it takes flexibility from both sides. It takes understanding. It takes firmness, because you have to stand your ground. That's the other thing. Flexibility does not mean, giving up your stance. Dig those heels into the ground now.
It can also mean that you think that the other person think that they've actually won over on you, but you actually have switched their thought, right? It's that reverse thinking.
Yeah.
I love doing that.
We call it cool in the pendulum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that flexibility can also be like, okay, this person has come at you with this.
Let me give you some rope.
I'm going to go ahead and just change this a little bit. And like, oh, okay. but that compromise. And I think compromise is a word that we do not use enough.
Yes.
Even just conversations, in our leadership conversations, right? Compromise has to be there. You have to be able to see that other side. You have to be able to meet them in that middle, which is why I like flexibility, just because it is a little bit more of a fun word.
Yeah.
But I feel like compromise needs to also come back, right?
Yeah.
Just because it does have to have that happy medium between the two.
I think with the landscape that we have been dealing with for a bit now, people are not willing to hear each other out. No matter where they kind of stand on things, people are not willing to just kind of take a moment and really feel like, okay, let me just listen for a minute. Let me take those 3 seconds, like you said, and really just take a second, see what's going on, see if I can understand, because perspective is everything, right? Let me see if I can switch my perspective for a moment. And you know what? If it's absolute horse doo-doo and it means nothing, then give them some rope, see where they're going with it, and pull that switch.
I think that's true. I think, I don't know when this switched in the industry of not being able to talk to each other like adults.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know when that's happened.
The passive aggressiveness.
It's crazy.
The let's not email for 6 weeks when we've had an issue.
Right. So, I don't understand where that changed or where what happened with that. I am thankful that I'm seeing it come back, right?
Yeah.
Get to have these adult conversations because we are human.
Yeah.
We have to live and breathe in our industry. Whatever we're doing on a day-to-day basis, but to be able to have that conversation and to be heard is valuable. We were talking about this, at Scioto. They look at me, I'm like, okay, you're the expert in this. We don't know this. You're the expert. And I'm like,
it's not
sure
so nice.
Sure I am. Thank
You're
you.
like, you know what?
Yes, I sure am.
I was waiting for someone to tell me this.
I was waiting for someone to tell me this because I've known this for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
No, that's powerful, right?
Yeah.
And that empowerment, I think is what really we're missing. We're gaining, but we're missing.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that these podcasts, these conversations, ignite that, reignite that in people.
Yeah.
That would be for me, just encouraging to hear that these conversations are happening and that women can have a voice in a men's world. But also too, it's important for us women to listen to men. We've been doing a lot of that for the past years, but it's still important to us to have those conversations, right? It's a two-sided street.
It should be dual-ended. It should be dual-ended.
There really should not, be honest, there should not be this divide. It should just be, you're in the conversation because you're in the conversation, you're in the room because you bring value. Nothing to do with whatever you are wearing, how you're looking, anything like that. It's just, it should just be the conversation, and that should be the value.
Because it's work, right? In the end, that's something I think we all really, really need to understand is that, this is work. And regardless of whether you agree with someone or not, or you agree with the way someone lives their life, if it's not harming you or not.
Right.
In the end, it's really about keeping that professionalism of let me not stick my hand in this person's face.
Right. Tell me stop talking. Right. And I think too, having these conversations and being just open, I think is just so key for us to move forward.
Yeah.
And I just, I think just being able to talk, get our thoughts out there, then move forward.
Yeah.
And then also too, being able to know that women do have the voice.
Yeah.
We can contribute. We are strong. We are not just this,
we're not just the assistants.
little mouse or whatever. We will speak up, and
Yeah.
I think that's what's really our message, is to get out there and say, hey.
I appreciate you being a part of this dialogue because you're someone that I have really, really just appreciated your perspective on a lot of things. I watched you on the Iron panel not too long ago, and I just really hope that these conversations do continue to live outside of this podcast. And if this is your first time joining, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. If you are coming back, I hope I see you again next time. But thank you so much, Angie.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. And
I appreciate you.
thank you for joining us with this episode of Just Between Us Girls. Like and subscribe. I keep forgetting to say that, but please like and subscribe. And don't let this conversation die here. Please take this into your boardrooms, into your conference rooms. Take this conversation everywhere you go so that we can continue to build a more equitable workplace and break the glass ceiling.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Bye. All right.
Girl. Thank you.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Yeah.
This was awesome.
I loved it.
Woo!
Woo-woo.
Okay.